Hello again. I would like to say hello to our Lamin community. My name is Alfredo Hernandez. You guys have seen me before in some of the other videos, and today I do have the privilege of speaking with one of our very own core team members for our Lamin network. His name is Mr. Sean Pinegar, and he is our wonderful IT guy. He's also a very busy businessman, career gentleman, and he's a father, he's a husband, very busy gentleman, but he still finds time to volunteer for our network. And it's a great asset to our network. So we're very grateful for him. But he's also a lamin positive patient and a fairly recent heart transplant patient as well. So I am honored to speak with you today. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah,
Awesome. That's
everything's
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's really good to hear. So, I would like to just go ahead and start getting into. We spoke a couple times already and went over a little bit about some of your experience with Lamin. So, I'd like to just kind of ask you if you can share with us when you were diagnosed, how it came about that you found out that you had Lamin mutation. You can share that with
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, happy to share. So it would have been maybe I think like July of 2023. Yeah, July 2023. I was really into fitness throughout my adulthood. And over, last 20 years, a very active martial artist. And one particular day. So at this point in time, I'm running 5 days a week in the morning. I'm doing kickboxing. I'm doing jujitsu. I'm doing weightlifting. I was really, really healthy and determined to be that person still kicking heads in my 80s type of thing. But I'm practicing jujitsu one day at the gym, and I'm going really hard with a friend of mine. I'm working on double
Yes.
leg takedowns. They're pretty exhausting. And after a while, his kids show up, and I say, "Hey, like I'll train them for a little bit. You go work out with somebody else." And these are, one's probably under 10 years old. The other one's maybe 13, 12, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I'm in a position where I'm never uncomfortable. I've been doing this a long time, and these are kids. I'm feeling confident, obviously, and I
Yeah.
start to feel really uncomfortable. And I said, "Hey, I need a minute. Something just feels off." And then I started to move to the edge of the mat, and I just looked around, and I know what it feels like to know you're about to pass out because I do jujitsu and we get, blood chokes on each other. I just said,
Yes.
"Hey, I think I'm gonna pass out." And I'm pretty sure I started to go to lay down on the mat because I didn't want to like hit hard. And next thing I know, someone's rubbing my back. There's people standing around me and they're saying, "Sean, Sean, Sean, Sean." And in that moment, I thought I was having a panic attack coming out of it because my heart was just pounding, pounding, pounding. And I realized I had no strength. I couldn't scoot myself over any further. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't get to my phone. And I sat there for probably 30 minutes just convincing everybody, "Hey, I just need to catch my breath. It'll be okay." And after a while, I just couldn't. So they called my wife. She came down and got me. They had to carry me out to her car, and she saw my face. She said I was just pure white, so she took me straight to the ER. Um, it was interesting because I get there, and then they're like, I couldn't explain what was wrong, and they said they're yelling at me. But then they hooked me up to the EKG. Immediately asked me if I can get into the wheelchair. I get in, and they start pushing really fast, yelling a lot of things. ER doctor walks in, the ER cardiologist says, "Sean, you're the most interesting person in this room right now, or in this hospital right now," which you'd never want to
Wow.
hear.
Wow.
And then they
Okay.
explained to me that I'm in something called VT. I have no idea what this means at this point in time, but I'm like, okay. And they said, "Sean, we're going to put you under and we're going to cardiovert you." And I thought I was going into like open heart surgery. I was freaking out. I started
Oh my
yelling at my
goodness.
wife about Bitcoin. 'Cause it got
Yeah.
crazy. A lot
Yes.
of doctors, they put me under, cardiovert me. I come to, and I feel great. Um, at the same time, so I'm up in the ICU in a bed at this point. My mom happened to be recovering from a heart transplant. So I call her. She's still in the hospital. And I say, Mom, you'll never guess where I'm at.
Hmm.
And sorry, it's
Yeah,
tough. Um,
absolutely,
it's
Sean.
like 5 in the morning when I call
Of
her,
course.
and
Yeah.
her team happens to be coming through. Maybe an hour later, and they call me and they go, Sean, how old are you and what happened? And I said, I'm 37, and I went to this thing called a VT. And they go, Sean, we think we know what's going on. You need to get in and see us.
Yeah.
And I had no idea about this mutation. My mom, heart transplant patient, but she could never communicate really what was going on. It was something with an L, which was hard to believe. And then I met with that team about a month later. They confirmed the diagnosis. Had an MRI, quickly got ICD, all that stuff, and
Sure.
that's kind of how I learned about it.
Yeah. So, so your mom had a heart transplant. Okay.
Yep.
But you guys hadn't connected the dots yet. So when you were experiencing this, did you, like you said, you didn't know anything about it? That's very common. That happened to me. I was not aware, but I know that my family had dealt with some heart issues and pacemakers on my mom's side of the family. Now, when you were going through this, did it cross your mind that maybe it was something connected to your mother, or were you completely just unaware, aloof about what's happening to you at 37, no less?
Yeah,
And you're
no,
very healthy and fit. So,
yeah, it
yeah,
was funny.
yeah.
I say funny, it's
It
situational, right?
absolutely.
The doctor kept asking me what
Yeah,
drugs I was on, kept asking my wife how many energy drinks I had slammed. They were convinced something else altogether that caused this. This was at the
sure,
initial ER, it
sure.
wasn't a transplant center. They weren't trained in this stuff.
Yes.
Um, but as soon as they said, "Hey, your heart rhythm's life threatening. We need to save your life now." I connected that. That's it instantly. Those dots connected.
Okay. Okay. So you started contemplating that connection with your mom at that particular moment.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't contemplating. It was like, oh, that's it. Like,
okay, I see.
yeah,
And did you explain to the doctors that are working uh, tenuously with you what your thoughts were at that time? Did you explain to them, "Hey, my
yeah,
mother's a transplant"? Okay, all right. So
yeah,
they had an idea then, Matt. Okay, you haven't been drinking a bunch of energy drinks. You're in VT. Maybe gave them the thought that okay, maybe there's some kind of hereditary thing going on. So at that particular, that was a very difficult experience for you, and a
yeah,
lot of us can relate to that. Um, but it's so personal to us when it happens. It sounds very similar to me. I was training for a half marathon, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a difficult thing to experience just all of a sudden, and
yeah,
and not know where it's coming from or what's causing it. So so they stabilized you, and
yeah,
by cardioverting you, getting you out of your VTs and your arrhythmias that you were dealing with. And did you stay in the hospital for a period of time after that? When did you get genetic testing, or what led them to do
yeah.
that?
So I was in for a couple of days. They did
Okay,
a heart cath. They just wanted to make sure there wasn't blockages or something like that.
very standard.
Um,
Yes,
they weren't 100% convinced yet if I would need an ICD. They wanted to wait for an MRI. So I wore the most miserable thing called a life vest for a while.
yes,
But then I pretty immediately transferred my care from that hospital over to the transplant center, University of
yes,
Nebraska. They're
yes.
just known for cardiac care, so I transferred it there. I got in with the doctors there within a month. I think actually it was a couple of weeks, maybe a week or two. They immediately ran genetic testing, and then we confirmed that I had the same variant as my mother. And then I quickly went to another hospital that had an opening on their MRI machine, the Children's Hospital, actually.
Sure.
And then they did the MRI, and that doctor, he was a very experienced EP. They're connected to the university. He made sure that I received an ICD as quickly as possible.
Sure. So the life vest that they sent you home, that's kind of like an external ICD. It
Yeah.
detects arrhythmias, and if you go into another VT that is life threatening, then it'll shock you. Just as an explanation for those that will be watching this, and maybe many of them have never have worn them as well. So you got the diagnosis. You knew your mother had some issues. You knew it's hereditary. You're 37 years old. That's a very difficult thing to receive, and difficult news to understand and to receive. So there's a very interesting thing about your story that I found very interesting, is that the progression uh, of your disease was very rapid, based on our previous discussions. And I think that's very interesting. Mine took several years. It was difficult, but yours progressed very rapidly. Can you share a little bit about how that particular moment you got an ICD with a regular pacemaker, plus an ICD, and then what happened after that? What Tell me
Yeah.
briefly the rapid progression that led you to where you're at,
Yeah.
getting a transplant. Yes.
Yeah, of course. So I had a dual chamber ICD placed,
Good.
traditional intravenous one. Yeah, and took a while, a little bit to recover. I got back to normal life. There was things obviously I couldn't do. I tried to do jujitsu 2 times after getting my ICD. My
Yeah.
team called me the next day, the both times, to say, whatever it was you were doing, stop it. Because I'd get into like these VT runs. I had about 50 of them on one night. They
Mm.
were all
Mm.
self-terminated, but they're like, Sean, stop. So I gave it
Yes.
up. Gave up martial arts, gave up running, all that stuff. Um,
So
that was,
I just want to mention that that's a sacrifice you make. That's
yeah,
You're giving up something that you've loved for many, many years. Jujitsu, you're training other kids. You obviously love it. You've done it for many years. So yes, so that is a sacrifice. You're having to give something up that you love, and I'm sorry about that, but I just want to reference that. We as patients, we unfortunately have to make lots of sacrifices. So I just want to mention that. So I'm sorry that you had to give that up, but please continue on.
yeah, yeah. So I mean that was tough. There was a whole like
Yeah,
who am I? There's an identity thing, right? Do I identify now as this
absolutely.
diseased person? That type of thing. But I had my doctor. My doctor's, he's great. Back then, he just looked at me and he said something that changed my viewpoint from that point on. He just said, Sean, it's in your DNA. You were born with it. It is what it is. And that's when it hit me that there's things I can't control, but I'm not gonna think about the potential outcomes 1,000 times and live the worst scenarios in my head before they ever play out. But then I just kind of jumped into being more in the moment. Obviously, that was scary, and I have little kids. I had a son that was 2 at that point, another one that was 7, and I was worried like, are they gonna have a dad? Like, so that was my big concern. So I just got more involved in their life, and it's from the time I had that initial occurrence of VT that we determined I had heart issues. Um, Roughly 13 months later, I'm at my son's football practice. It just happens to be the first 10 minutes, the first practice. I'm assistant coach, and my son, I left his water in the car, so I'm going to get it from my truck. The practice is going. I jogged 20 feet. And then I'm standing there and my shirt starts to shudder a little bit. And I was like, huh. And then I see just a twinge as I'm looking out. I'm like, I wonder if I'm about to be shocked. And in my head, I convinced myself I was starting to sit down on the ground, but my ICD fired. And what everybody tells me, my wife, is that I just dropped. Um, I felt it. I was conscious. I hit the ground and I was like, oh, like what? And my first thought was like, that was not as bad as I thought. I mean, it sounded like an 808 drum, like a little explosion that went off in my head, and it felt like
Sure.
somebody hit me with a 2x4. But I was like, it's so instant by the time it passes. I was just like, that's it. And then it hit again, and I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. Um, but
Scary.
fortunately, yeah, fortunately, I don't know. It's we. me and my family, we talk about how many miracles took place here because there's a local volunteer fire department that's not always staffed. It's the people are they're there when they want to be there. They just happen to be conducting an all hands on deck training about a minute away from me. So there's a parent there, there's a paramedic. They call 911. They show up in like a minute. They get me down to the university. We spent some time working on an ablation, a VT ablation, which was unpleasant, but we did that. We thought it worked. I went home for 3 days, and then I went back to the ER in a like a slow VT, heart rate about 130 beats a minute, but VT, and they worked through every option. It got to the point I was IV medications were keeping me alive. They couldn't take me off the IV because I was risking going into arrest. And after a few weeks of that, that's when they came to me and said, "Sean, like we're it, there's no other option. It's you're looking at transplant." It was about 14 months.
14 months. So
Months.
from the first incident to
The
this,
transplant. Yeah.
it's less than a year and a half. Okay. So you had a sustained VT that they could not resolve other than with IV antiarrhythmics.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
and
correct?
that wasn't really even working. So I was in a VT
Oh wow.
storm, and I mean
Okay.
I went one day 23 hours in VT.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
this was regular occurrence. It got to the point I couldn't lift my arm without going into VT.
Sure.
So it became unmanageable, and even
Yes.
on the IVs, it was just kind of a matter of how long how long could I
Yeah.
survive on an IV?
Absolutely. Sure. Okay. So a year and 4 months, now you are having a discussion of a heart transplant because your heart
Yeah.
will not stop having VTs. Okay. So you were obviously hospitalized on some kind of drip, right? For
Yep. Couple of
antiarrhythmic,
trips, but yeah, yeah.
couple drips. Okay. All right. And then, so at what point did you get listed on the transplant, or how quickly were they able to evaluate you? Because obviously you're getting evaluated while you're dealing with this stuff, as opposed to just going in as an outpatient to a hospital to go to the heart transplant evaluation procedures, right? So you're in hospital, you're inpatient. Okay, so share a little bit about the evaluation process and how quickly they were able to do that for you.
Yeah, since I was in the hospital, so it was just kind of like I'm there all day doing evaluations. The
Yes.
evaluations took about 2 days to complete.
Okay.
I was, I mean, automatically approved effectively. Like it was almost a formality, it seemed like, but I went through it
Yeah.
all, got listed, and then once I was listed, it was 2 days when
Yeah.
between being listed and receiving my heart transplant.
Wow. So you were listed, and in 2 days they had a
Yeah,
heart match for you. Wow.
yeah,
There. Well, I don't know,
which
but
I hear is incredibly
I
fast. Like,
see. I see another miracle there. I mean, you were just surrounded with difficulty, but solutions, and we're all very grateful for that because here you are with us today talking about it, and you were 37 at the time. So in less than 2 years, you started having VT. You were had a vest and you had a pacemaker, an ICD, and you were getting shocked and you had sustained VT, and then you were transplanted. That's a very, very rapid progression. I guess there are pros and cons to that. You don't have to
yep.
deal with a lot of years of dealing with this getting shocked, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, I think you're one of the few people, probably the only person that I've spoke with that went through this disease and progressed so rapidly and led to heart transplant in such a short period of time. So, that is quite amazing what you went through in such a short period of time. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking? So, just for reference
Um,
point,
yeah, 40 now.
you're
But a heart
40.
transplant about around a year and a half, if you will, was
Okay.
September 14th, 2024.
Okay.
But you're right. Like it's when we think about it, it's like one of the things that was going through my head when after diagnosed was I've my mother went the traditional route of heart failure over many, many, many years. She was transplanted at 59. So I pinned that up as like, I've probably got to my late 50s, but I'm
Yeah.
really healthy. So the reality is probably 60s. That's what I'm thinking. And you
Yes,
get this comparison thing. But if I thought about my kids, I'm like, man, as I progress, is it going to get to the point where they don't have a dad that can play football, play basketball, can't really participate in their lives? I'm just the sick dad that they know. So there was really, two outcomes from this. One was, I learned very quickly that the comparison game is a fool's errand when it comes to health. Same mutation, same family, drastically different outcomes between me and my mom. I mean, she had a couple decades of heart issues. I had 14 months and I was transplanted. The other thing was, like, to my statement earlier, I'm doing great. I'm kickboxing now. I'm back to jujitsu. I'm doing the stuff they told me I'd never get to do again. I get to play with my kids, all this stuff. I got to worry about the sun, and stuff like that. But I get to enjoy the things I thought I was giving up. I get to do the stuff with my kids. They get to have a dad they get to have fun with. So it's its own little blessing.
that is definitely a blessing. That's great. That's an amazing story that you're sharing with us. Now, when we spoke last time as well, I guess after you were transplanted, um, there was some because you were on a antiarrhythmic drip, right?
Yep.
Before the transplant, and when you were transplanted, I I understand they kept your chest open for a period of time to pace the new heart.
Not
Am
not
I
exactly the
incorrect?
phase. So I went into surgery the morning of the 14th. The general, they'll say, is 6 to 8 hours, the typical heart transplant surgery.
Yes.
Um, After 16 hours, they came out to talk to my wife, who, they don't communicate the best, like when you're in surgery. So she's thinking something has gone horribly wrong. Maybe he's dead. We don't know. But they came out, and it wasn't like, basically the message was along the lines of, "Hey, look, his vitals are stable, but the new heart's not working. He's on, the world's strongest life support. We're keeping his chest open. He's going to be asleep a few days." Um, and it was due to having some medicine in me. And I actually have a brief clip here I can play, of the surgeon kind of sharing that message that I'll kind of share,
Okay.
and I'll
A
give it a little
recording
bit
of
more
of
context.
your surgeon sharing this information with your wife. Wonderful. Okay, we'd love to hear it. So,
All right.
Taking medications, things like amio, lidocaine. Yeah, because he's on them for so long. So people who have chronic BT are at high risk for what's called primary graft dysfunction, which is when the heart doesn't work right away, which tends to be temporary. But all of those medications, amiodarone, propanamide, mexiletine, lidocaine, if you and those circulate, even when we shut them off, they circulate, especially amiodarone. It stays in the body, it gets in the liver, it's there for like months. But all those medications can be toxic to like a young, healthy heart. So you expose a normal 18, 21, 22, 25-year-old heart to high doses of those circulating medications, and it could really stun the heart. I think that's what happened here because it's exactly what we see.
So I'm gonna pause it there because I mean, it goes on for quite a while.
no, those are the bullet points. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, but what I will add, because I realize, these are also medications that people take, and I don't want to induce fear in anyone that might be on something like an amiodarone. In my case, they were slamming a lot of it into me over IV, and typically, at least this is what the surgeon has shared, when they're taking someone that's on those medications in for a transplant, they kind of
Yes,
cut them off a little bit in advance to help get some of it out of the system. They couldn't take me off the high dosages they were slamming into me because of the risk of going into arrest. So the situation was a little unique. But the other
it is.
thing to take away is, while the surgery didn't go according to plan, complications took way longer, they had a plan. So they still got me through it. When he started observing me having these issues, and he later communicates like, This does happen at times, and sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days for this to kind of clear out and the heart to beat on its own. And that's what happened for me. I was woken up 3 days later. After they had removed the Impella pump, they'd removed the ECMO, and those are things that keep the blood circulating. ECMO through your body, an Impella
Yes,
pump in the heart because you don't want the blood to stagnate just because the thing's not working yet. But
absolutely.
they were able to get me off those in a couple of days, and I woke up, and then it was just work on getting better.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, that must have been a very interesting experience for you and your wife as well and your family. Now, I think the takeaway that the message that I would like to say is yes. So Sean was on amiodarone, which is a very effective antiarrhythmic under your circumstances, and it stays in the system, it stays in the liver. And so when somebody is on high doses of this particular drip and some other similar medications, and they are soon transplanted, the surgeons and the medical team and the transplant team, they are very aware of this, and they have protocols in place to stay ahead of those known possible complications, because the heart that you received in such a miraculously short period of time, it was a heart of a very young individual, and so young hearts are more prone to being affected by these particular medications because they're not used to it and they're not exposed to that. But the transplant teams, the surgeons, the hospitals, they've seen this many times. They have protocols in place. So yes, talking about not to elicit any concerns with any of the members within our community, these transplant hospitals, they have these protocols and all these systems in place to deal with this. And so how long was it before they were able to close you again after?
Yeah.
Yes, approximately,
Around two
whatever you can
days.
recall. Around 2 days.
Around
Okay.
2 days. Yep.
So you were sitting in a bed, and so this is what's crossing my mind. You were sitting in bed, you had just received a heart transplant, but your chest is open.
So they
Um,
wouldn't wake me up with my chest open. The risk was too high. So by the time,
yes,
so I was
of
I was
course.
out that whole time.
Okay, so you were intubated and under anesthesia.
Yep.
Okay, okay, good. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we explain that as well, that
Yeah.
you will not be aware of this particular situation. You'll be under anesthesia. You didn't have to consciously have that awareness of that situation for anybody else that's listening as well. Wow, yes, this is an extremely interesting story and very educational. And now we have the privilege of having you be our IT guy as a volunteer for our community. And I couldn't do what I do with yourself and many other people without your assistance and editing our videos. So I just want to say we're very grateful for all of Sean's work, and that all of us, we volunteer our time for the network because we all have, and we're all invested because we're either transplanted patients, we've endured, we have family members that are enduring, and we all make sacrifices, and we all have losses as well. So you volunteer your time, and I know that you're a busy father, you're active in the community, you have a very busy career as well, and you still find time to volunteer and help us with all of our needs as an IT guy, which everybody knows no company can function without a good IT guy. So we're very grateful to you for that, and for your time today as well, and for your family as well, for them allowing you to share your story and everything else, and your family and our family members are part of the team as well, because not many people mention what they go through. They have their side of it, they have
They
their
do.
experience, their fear, their concerns. Like you were saying, you're thinking, am I going to be the sick dad? What's going to happen? I have young kids. I want to be a father. I want to be an active father. I want to teach my kids things that I want to teach them. Your wife, I'm sure, was going through the same one, thoughts and concerns and worries.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
and now she has you whole. Yes.
yeah. And I mean, it's like an interesting, it's a really complicated situation because it's like, the breadwinner, I bring home the income. My wife takes amazing care of the kids and me, but I can't imagine the stress she had to go through. Like, honestly, I think that for the caretaker, it might even be worse. Like for the spouse, like they're probably going through so much more. Like one, because you can't immediately connect at all because you're a little out of it. And two, they got to
Yes.
support you through every step of the way. And it's not like they get to take a break to have their mental breakdown. They've got to stay with you. And there's so much that comes along with it, physical, mental. Like, I'll tell people the toughest part of this whole thing, it was not the surgery, it was not the recovery, it wasn't the uncertainty of, could you, well, make it through surgery or not. It was uh recording happy birthday videos for my kids in case I didn't make it, so they at least had something to watch on their birthday.
Wow.
That's rough.
It
Or
is.
recording videos, trying to teach them lessons that you're not sure if you'll get the opportunity to. Nothing is harder than that.
Yeah, I understand absolutely, and that's why I wanted to reference, our caretakers, our family members. They often are not given the credit. We as patients, we experience a lot of trauma, but our family members, they also experience a lot of trauma, a lot of fear, concerns that, am I going to have my husband, my wife, etc. Are they going to pass away? Am I going to lose them? And so, just wanted to bring that up
Yeah.
for you because I know your family, your wife, and your kids are just so dear and special to you, and like they are for all of us. So I just wanted to make sure that we give them credit for supporting you as well. And now they have you whole and complete, and you're doing jujitsu and everything you love. So I can relate to that, and it's such a miracle as well. And so such a glorious time and such a an amazing thing for you. So you're working, you're doing jujitsu, you're still teaching some kids, maybe whoever wants to learn.
Now and
Yes,
there, yeah.
yeah, that's
I
great.
am very particular about who I train with. And if somebody
Yeah,
in there even has a tickle in their throat, like I usually don't even participate. So being immunocompromised or immunosuppressed, I should say, there are different things that like different conditions I have to control for in training, but I
yes,
am able to do it. And I'm not going to be competing, obviously, but
yes.
it's interesting. It's like I box as well, and I'll get some transplant patients. They look at me like I'm crazy, and they're like, "But aren't you worried about the new organ?" And it's like, I don't know. I talked to my doctor about this too, because obviously I clear this stuff with them. I just want to make that apparent. It's
Of
like
course, yes.
my sternum's sealed. This thing's rock solid. Like my heart's protected. It would be different if it was a kidney where it's exposed a little bit more. So that's I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good that you had the courage to just get back out there and live your life to the fullest. That's wonderful, and that's something that that's a good takeaway as well. So you being one of our team members, you have a lot of knowledge, and because you work with us and you work with a lot of patients as well. You attend a lot of the conferences. Would you have any takeaways or anything that you would like to share with our
Yeah.
community?
Yeah. So
Yes.
I had completely different thoughts about what I wanted to share at this section until this morning, to be completely honest. So I made some notes earlier today.
Good.
Um, Earlier today I heard this amazing this quote that really resonated with me, and it's a quote from Sitting Bull, who was a Cherokee tribe chief. And the quote goes, "Inside me there are two dogs. One is mean and evil, and the other is good, and they fight each other all the time. When asked which one wins, I answer, the one I feed most." And I thought that was amazing because as you're navigating a health journey or you get a diagnosis, it's like you have the mean dog, and this is the dog of comparison and fear. You get the genetic envy, feeling a sting when a family member with the same mutation remains asymptomatic when you're facing complications. Or you might end up in the prophecy fallacy of mistaking another patient's medical decline for a preview of your own inevitable future, or fall into the fairness trap of ruminating on the biological injustice of why the same glitch hit you harder than someone with the same mutation or other layman patients. And then, at least in my case, there was times I would find myself doom scrolling, And I was really feeding this dog the anxiety I was developing by obsessing over clinical averages, worst case trajectories and patient forms, and comparing ejection fraction and PVC counts and things like that. But then to contrast, there's the dog of stoicism and contentment, acknowledging that there is an invisible clock of this heart condition, but not allowing it to tick in your head every minute of the day. Operating in this kind of N of one mindset of treating your health journey as your unique story, independent of family statistics or medical charts that aren't yours. You know, thinking of these devices, the life vests, the ICDs, the medications, these are armor that keep you in the game, rather than symbols of a broken body. And really, it's like starving the what if and focusing on the what is. You take your next dose, get the
Wow.
next checkup, find joy in the current level of function you have. So the reality is, I went again from first occurrence, transplant 14 months. My team didn't even think they're like, Sean, we might be able to manage this to where you don't ever need a transplant. You never know how fast or how slow it could go. So just live in the moment. And
Wow.
honestly, I think there's something to be said because there's like we talk about the variability of this disease and how it can same family can have different outcomes play out aggressive, not aggressive, one sibling fine, the other one, complete train wreck. So it's easy, I think, to use that unpredictability to focus on again the negative outcomes that could occur and just rotate around those. Like I said earlier, live it 1,000 times in your head before it's even a reality. Why not use that variability to have some hope and say, maybe my outcome won't be as bad? How should I enjoy life right now? Because honestly, I can't control what this thing's doing in my body, but I can control what I'm doing right now and how I react. So that's what I would leave people with. Which dog are you going to feed? The mean dog or the good dog? And you have to be purposeful with which one you're going to feed.
Our thoughts can be very intentional. Sometimes they spiral out of control, but we have to bring ourselves back
Yeah.
in staying with the good dog. I love your explanation. I mean, we always talk about having a positive mindset. Don't compare yourself to others because the manifestation and progression of the disease between two people, same family, same variant, can be very different. Um, so that is a wonderful explanation. I've never heard it said that way, and I think it's an awesome explanation. I'm glad we're recording this so that I can listen to it again and others can also listen to it again. I think that's a wonderful perspective that our mindsets do have a significant impact, not just on our thoughts, but it can manifest as our body sensations and how we fare ourselves as well. So it's an extremely important takeaway. Thank you very much for sharing that. That was very inspirational and very educational at the same time. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sean.
Of
And
course.
once again, thank you for from the community and from us at the network for sharing your story, a very personal story, and for giving us some great insight and some feedback and some good education. And once again, yes, thank you for your volunteer time for us to make all this possible as well. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and it was really a pleasure speaking with you. Not just today, but the times that we spoke previously, we got to know each other, and it was a great pleasure for me as well to get to know you
Yeah.
as well. So, okay.
I would say
So,
thank you for having me, and something I will
absolutely.
put out there again because I'm part of the network. If I don't know if there's
Yes.
anybody that wants to chat, just wants to chat at all, don't hesitate to reach out to myself. I'm sure Alfredo's probably open to talking to you. Like we have people that would love to chat. I love meeting other patients, so
Yes.
don't hesitate to ask.
Absolutely. Or share your story in an interview or discussion with me as well. And it's not just about sharing our stories. We love to hear our stories. We love to hear other people's experiences. But at the same time, we all have something to offer. And there could be another patient there who's just going to need to hear what you have to say or what somebody else has to say. So this is our way of of giving back or receiving from one of us in giving ourselves feedback or helping each other change our mindsets about where our thoughts may be tracking if they're not in the right direction, and how to deal, especially talking to somebody else who's been through it, who understands the whole experience. As far as sharing and everything else, I also want to mention that we're going to be having a conference, an inpatient conference here in the United States at Stanford University, obviously in California, on May 13th and May 14th. So we always would love to have as many attendees. For those patients and family members that can make it, we would be thrilled to have you guys look at our website and look at and ask questions on the Facebook page, and get details about the upcoming conference, so that if it's possible for yourself, your family, your career, if you could attend. It's an extremely educational meeting where you'll meet other patients who are dealing with the same thing. You'll meet experts in the field, researchers, learn about current research approaches, and it might be an opportunity to get a lot of answers to a lot of the questions that we might have, and or you might have as well. So once again, thank you, Sean. It was great speaking with you and meeting you, and I hope to speak with you and see you again real soon. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and you have a wonderful day.